In Europe, between the Middle Ages and the French Revolution, the values and views on intellectualism underwent major changes. During the Middle Ages, education was focused on religion. The Renaissance became the turn when the values of other educational ideas arose. During the Reformation, the importance of reading sprung into society when the Bible became a necessity to read. During the time of absolutism, not many people were educated, therefore were not able to participate in government, which led to unhappiness of the people. Constitutionalism led to citizens becoming aware of outside countries' value of education, which led to them to desire the freedom of schooling. Scientific revolution was a time of realistic, rational thinking, when astronomy became the teachings, turning the technically read Bible into a figuratively read Bible. The Enlightenment was a sharing of new ideas, the modernization and freedom of education. The French Revolution was a period in which citizens fought for their rights, one of which includes education.
Monks taught school for boys, where they learned to read and write Latin. Latin was very important because both the Bible and the church services used that language. Not only did the church encourage learning, they also encouraged artists and builders to build some of the finest structures in the world and paint beautiful masterpieces. Many of the cathedrals still stand, representing medieval times. During the Middle Ages, girls were not taught to read and write, unlike boys. There were a few organized schools for women in convents, but all girls and women who learned to read received homeschooling.
The Renaissance was a time of new views on life, and people had more faith in human beings than in God. Humanism started in Italy, and it became the literacy movement of the Renaissance. Humanists studied grammar, poetry, moral philosophy, ethics, and history. Humanists were mainly teachers and professors at universities. They believed that human beings could be dramatically changed by education. Humanists believed that education was to be a preparation for life. Its goal was to make people become a local contribution to their community. Liberal arts became the study of the Renaissance. Having an education was looked at as a freedom for individuals to reach their full potential. Liberal studies included history, moral philosophy, eloquence, grammar, poetry, mathematics, astronomy, and music. It was believed that those who studied the liberal arts pursued a life of virtue and wisdom and possessed the rhetorical skills which pursued others to do the same. Children from lower classes were provided with free education. Humanist schools were made for the ruling classes of the community. Very few women were allowed to be educated. When women were educated, their studies focused on history and to ride, dance, sing, play the lute, and appreciate poetry. They were restricted from mathematics and rhetoric. Sorry, ladies.
The Reformation was a time in Europe when Christianity established a new branch of religion called Protestantism. They based their beliefs on education from the humanism beliefs. Nobles were allowed a more broadened education. The monk Martin Luther advised that all children have an education provided by the state. Because Protestantism created an increased need for at least some semi-education, so believers could read the Bible. This was the time period when education became combined with the religious teachings in schools. So, co-education and school at the same time! Yeah!
Absolutism was the time period in which kings emphasized the fact that they are the ruling power of their country by divine right. The issues of place and government became a debate over rights in many countries, such as England and France. Parliament believed that uneducated people shouldn't have a right to participate in government, therefore people desired education even more. The Dutch had a well-developed educational system, while France failed to provide a very nice educational system for the poor. Therefore, if you was poor, you was stupid.
Constitutionalism was the time of the ideas of freedom and equality. During this time, citizens were looking at the government as something that was there to protect them, not abuse them. These theories were presented by John Locke, who stated in his book, The Two Treatises of Government, that all people have inalienable rights to life, liberty, and property. He believed government was established to protect these rights. The opposite ideas came from Thomas Hobbes, who believed humanity was naturally evil and a government needed a strong monarch to control its citizens. People believed that since the government's job is to protect them or control them, that they should at least provide a sturdy education.
The scientific revolution is a time when one's own research and studies brought debates and conflict between what was true or not. The idea of the Enlightenment was people using their own intelligence to figure life out. The major intellectual changes were the popularization of science, a skepticism of the church and their teachings, and the literature that came from traveling. Many educated Europeans took major interest in the world around them. Copernicus was the first to state the heliocentric conception method, when it was believed that the sun was the center of the universe, not the earth. The church used the geocentric conception when they believed that the earth was the center. Then Copernicus was blown out of the water. The intellectuals of the Enlightenment were called philosophes. The philosophes had a major impact on the Enlightenment. They had a skeptical view on traditional religion and advocated religious toleration. The science of man emerged using Newton's scientific methods. They came up with natural laws that they believed to govern human actions. Philosophes like Francis Bacon and René Descartes created the scientific method when they wanted people to think more independently and prove things themselves, rather than relying on the Bible and the church.
The French Revolution was the time when there was an acceleration in intellectual and cultural change, which opened up new horizons and possibilities. There was a lot of sympathy to intellectuals, which seemed to put the ideas of the Enlightenment into practice. Philosophes' ideas were widely circulated among the literate bourgeoisie and noble elites of France.
Hey bro, my name is Rachel.
Hello. Thank you for watching the video.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We appreciate it.
You know, acting and whatnot.
Intellectualism is the way to go.
Peace, Broha.
Citizens becoming...
Okay, I'm on my place.
What was true or not?
Oh, crap. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Turning technically...
People shouldn't have a right to participate in government. Therefore, people decided education. Ow!
I'm going to crawl over this camera now.